Yeah.
Lovely, we're back to this. Hooray.
Yes, we're back to the thing that makes us cringe harder than the inner thoughts of Edward Cullen. That is
Yeah.
never something you should aspire for, but apparently this author did. Really worried. Anyway, we're on Chapter 5. This is Chapter 5, The Birth of Hope, of Time to Fix the Mistake, which you probably could figure out if you were to read the title.
Who does that anymore?
No one. No one reads titles. Titles? Who has time to read titles? What are you,
just...
idiot?
It's just like reading the titles of chapters. Like, no one does that anymore. Regardless of...
At least with the Twilight books, there was kind of the entertaining thing that the part of one of the books was narrated by Jacob, and the chapter titles are noticeably different because they go from simple one-word titles to sarcastic phrases. I'm not kidding. Granted, it's the part where Jacob's just being a huge dick, but
I mean, even so, that's a real fun way to do chapters and switching voices of characters and stuff like that.
Yeah. If only Stephanie Meyer didn't believe that the way to make a character be taken seriously as a romantic possibility was to just have them start acting like a jackass.
Well, we can't always get what we want.
Might have a few issues. Anyway, it's September 7th, 1978.
Harry had just returned from seeing his father play his first game for the Kestrels. Harry had forgotten how much he had loved Quidditch. It was good to see the same look of pure joy on his father's face.
Then there had been the small announcement in the Daily Prophet. Potter heir to marry Lily Evans. Slow news day.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the wizarding world. It's not...
Slow news day. Doesn't change that.
History was coming together. It hadn't been just the heightening war or the death of Harry's grandparents that had driven his mother and father together. There was something real there. James had loved Lily for years. It seemed Lily really did love him back.
Like a certain greasy slime ball that wouldn't leave Lily alone, pushing her towards other people. Oh, God damn it. History was... Oh, wait. No.
No, next one.
It was more probable that little Harry James Potter would be born... it was more than probable that little Harry James Potter would be born on July 31st, 1980, with messy black hair and green eyes. Not necessarily. You're assuming that time is a VHS tape.
Maybe not. I mean... Harry sat down in a transfigured chair and just grinned. He hadn't felt this happy since he'd returned in time. He had gotten to see his father's professional Quidditch debut. What a treat.
Debut.
Yes, I've made that mistake before.
What is a debit?
I had a debit card. Tom's tired, guys. Debut. I'm very tired, and I need to...
I was going to make a joke about his chair initially being a ferret since he transfigured it from something. But conjured himself some tea and sat and replayed the game in his mind. His father had performed well, not as a superstar, and made 7 shots, scoring on 4 of them. The game had been a short one, barely 35 minutes in total, because the golden snitch thing just makes the rules really weird when you think about it.
And I don't know why. I mean, I guess I kind of understand why it's not an auto win condition, but even so, it's like...
Well, I'd hope it wasn't an auto win condition.
True.
It's bad enough how many points it gives. You don't want the auto win condition to be based upon your player just successfully managing to catch a thing. Especially when the rest of the team is scoring goals. Because then no matter what the goals scored is useless. There's no reason to care about anything but other than when the fucking seeker finds the snitch.
Well, I mean, with the points cost it is anyway.
You somehow made the sport worse.
Well, with the score the way it is anyway, it kind of doesn't matter just because.
Well, if you have it to where you're if you want to make sure that you're okay, let me search how many points the snitch is worth.
150, I believe.
Well, I'm not taking your word for it.
Okay.
Snitch. Okay, 150. Now, okay, let's also check the. Let's see.
And it's 1 point per regular score, I believe.
Quidditch. No, because there's 3 different goals. Each of them offers a different.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And I accidentally didn't put the. Don't want goal scorer. I want. Okay, no. Apparently each. No, wait. That's Muggle Quidditch. All right. Ah, fuck. So basically, the whole thing is that you have to make sure that you catch the snitch without your team getting a 150-point lead. I mean, without your opposing team get a 150-point lead.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous as that rule is.
Mm-hmm. And then when
the history of Quidditch.
And then when the snitch is caught, the game is over. So
yes, but yeah, that's the whole thing. Is you have to find the thing before 150-point lead ends up happening. Okay, apparently each goal is worth 10 points because why would the goals that are at different levels and different this sport makes less and less sense.
Well, to be fair, Stephanie Meyer doesn't strike me as the sporty or athletic.
I'm sorry, you care to repeat that?
She doesn't strike me as the sporty or
Not
athletic
that,
type.
The name.
Not Stephanie Meyer. J.K. Rowling.
Motherfucker.
I'm tired. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the whole thing is that if your scorers are good enough, and if your fucking people dealing with the bludger are good enough, you could get a lead of over 150 points before the snitch is caught. Therefore just try to keep your lead so that even if the opposing team catches the snitch, you still win.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, that also causes the problem of why would your opponent catch the snitch at that point unless it's just to end the game already.
Mm-hmm.
But that's besides the point.
Yeah, well.
I mean, I probably would have just set up to where there was only one snitch, but don't have it to be where have it to where it's like an instant game over.
Yeah, it might.
Anyway,
it's a wizard sport. I'm not going to try to understand it as a muggle. So
I mean, yeah, you barely have the ability to understand most muggle affairs.
Choosing not to watch the news and understanding.
I wasn't talking about the news.
Oh, what were you talking about then?
Basic social convention.
Oh.
He was glad his father had been able to go into Quidditch rather than immediately join the Aurora training program as he had done in the original timeline. Yeah, that could have fucked up all sorts of things, Harry. Perhaps James would still become an Aurora at some point, perhaps not. The same went for the still unborn Harry Potter. Harry just hoped that his younger self would find something he loved to do. Like complaining about his wife.
Harry sipped his tea and opened the Daily Prophet he picked up after the game. The front page held nothing of interest. No, the good stuff was mentioned on the society page, the wedding announcement, and also buried on pages 6 and 7, transcripts from the first public Death Eater trials for 3 men who had been sent to Azkaban previously without trial.
Again, as pointed out, as stated earlier, it's stated that his father is apparently good at Quidditch, but not quite a superstar, which, unless they're one of the more household names in a sport, you typically aren't going to have too big of a deal made about them getting married. What?
Mm-hmm.
It's most lower ranking celebrities you don't hear anything about when they get married. Ones that are out of the spotlight compared to other celebrities. And as stated, not as a superstar.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying the story shouldn't be in the newspaper at all?
Unless it's local, no. Unless it is a local celebrity type situation. Unless this is his hometown, no.
Well, I don't know the rules of this universe.
of this universe that this
Uh,
author has created?
Yes.
Because so far they've been rather stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Transcripts of the trial of Randall Lovage, Quentin Greengrass, and Pericule Crispbottom.
Chief Warlock.
Crispbottom!
Yep.
Crispbottom. I should probably have that be one of Sazarak's stage names.
Jeez.
He's got a hot ass.
Chief Warlock Griselda Marchbanks presiding. Ladies and gentlemen, for our public trials, the official transcripts will be taken by the Ministry and the Daily Prophet to ensure accuracy. Bring in the accused. We have 2 tasks today: to determine if the 3 accused are members of the Death Eaters, a group labeled as a terrorist threat by the Ministry of Magic, and to determine how these 3 individuals wound up in Azkaban prison without trials before the Wizengamot. The lead inquisitor for the trial shall be interim head Auror, Alistair Moody.
Alistair Moody. Minister of the Vertices Serum to Mr. Lovage. Mr. Lovage, I guess it's already in you. Do you admit to being a marked follower of the wizard known as Lord Voldemort?
Randall Lovage. Yes.
Did you kill anyone on the orders of Lord Voldemort?
Lovage. No.
Did you participate in any Death Eater raids?
Lovage. Yes, sir. 1 raid.
Why only 1?
I was disgusted by what I saw and allowed myself to be captured at the raid, sir.
Are we sure the Veritaserum is working? Has this man really not killed anyone? I'm really confused here.
No, sir, I haven't.
1 test for the Truth Serum. Tell me your worst experience at Hogwarts.
Peeves the Poltergeist pushed me off a moving staircase, and I landed on 3 girls, the floor below, one of whom I had a crush on.
What is this, a shit anime?
I mean, maybe.
That's enough. No one would willingly own up to that. Why won't you try? What? I can think of several people who would probably own up to that. But okay. Why won't you try, Lovage?
No idea, sir. I was interviewed under Veritaserum by 3 Aurors and a stern man called Crouch. I told them the same things I've said today.
Harry stopped reading there. He was reassured by what he was reading in the newspaper, and the old witch Marchbanks was certainly a formidable fellow, but he needed independent confirmation. The trial sounded almost too good to be true. Innocents getting to speak, ministry garbage aired in public view.
Harry wanted to find out if things were as rosy as the trials as they were portrayed in the newspaper. He made himself a note to pay Alistair Moody a visit in the near future.
It should be fun going up against that paranoid old man. At least he didn't possess his magical eye in this timeline.
November 3rd, 1978.
Paperwork finally came through. Thomas Franklin now owned the old white estate. This old white house.
This old house.
No, this old white house. This looking says, oh, wait, why is there an iron cross?
As a wizard, it took him only 3 hours to clean the place with magic. It had had none of the revolting creatures that had infested the Black Mansion.
I feel like there's something that could be said about that right there.
Many decades or centuries of non-magicals living there would have been enough to banish any ghouls, doxies, or boggarts, which all relied upon magical energy for some part of their sustenance.
Unless they'd, driven out the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a possibility. And then the Winchesters get called in, and it gets really weird. Well, actually, no. John Winchester at this point. Oh, actually. No, this would have been before John Winchester.
Mm-hmm. He probably would have been a young man. Still learning.
Yes. John Winchester's wife. Wife's family. Not sure what they're doing in England at the time, but...
Well, isn't it shown in the show that there are other witch hunters besides the Winchesters?
Well, yes.
Okay, so it could have just been
Sam
else.
and Dean's mom was shown to come from a family of hunters.
Oh, okay. Maybe they're from England.
That's the whole thing. No.
Maybe someone down the line is from England, but okay.
No, but their uncle is shown to... their grandpa is shown to have, a ridiculous amount of information on different monsters. And the whole thing is that before that, John was always a mechanic, and he ended up basically only became a hunter after his wife died.
Oh, okay.
So it was a whole thing of like he ended up picking up the job that his wife initially had.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep. Spoilers.
Well.
Harry had 1 week left on his flat in Manchester, and then he would disappear from the industrial city. But having a large, if not enormous building like the White Estate, would help Harry with his plans for the future. He didn't plan to have too many active battles going forward. But he did need a place from which he could monitor the world and bring individuals for further interrogation if things ever became complicated. Why you have to go and make things so complicated? Oh God, the fireworks are picking up.
Hang on a sec. I need to... Oh, I'll be right back.
I hope nobody in the neighborhood has PTSD, because that could be real unfortunate. That is not something you want to be dealing with in that situation. Did I make sure to actually update my voice changer? I guess we're gonna find out now.
I'm back. Sorry about that. I thought someone was knocking at my door, but it was I don't know what it was. Anyway.
Wow.
Harry planned to hide several rooms throughout the main buildings with the Fidelius charm. He would do the same to the 3 of the outbuildings too. He hoped never to need to use the hidden rooms, but he wasn't silly enough to realize the world would fall into line this easily.
Wait, did he booby trap the outhouses?
Sounds like.
Or does it just mean like the shed?
The outbuildings, so that could mean a variety of things. But I like your idea of booby trapping the outhouses because that's hilarious.
I mean, that raises also the question of why there's multiple outhouses. What?
It's a big but not huge house, so maybe they have 2.
So they have multiple toilets outside.
Yeah. It's wizard stuff after all.
Shit?
No. Yeah, actually, yes. Let's go with that because I don't feel like coming up with a response for that.
Curtis' task was over, but now came the unrewarding phase, guarding over the world. You're not a fucking superhero.
Okay, Ozymandias.
Hey. And if you were, I'd hope that you'd be better written. Christ. This is the worst origin story ever. Believe me, I'd say I'd see some bad ones, but I've been seeing good ones mostly recently. Partly because of the fact that Into the Spider-Verse is now on Netflix.
I need to watch that.
I fucking love that movie. Like, the best way I can put it is that it makes me happy.
Hey, it won an award, so it's...
Does it really mean shit now, does it?
No, it doesn't, but like...
Awards are won by PR.
True. But... Anyway, I need to watch it.
Harry figured if he allowed his younger self to make it out of Hogwarts at age 17 without the world exploding, then the young man would have the best possible kind of beginning. Why are you immediately assuming that some worse evil is gonna pop up like this is fucking Lord of the Rings or some shit?
That's a good question.
At least Lord of the Rings had a habit of, oh hey, a new evil popped up after we defeated the old evil, and it's even worse than before. Also, the world's getting more and more worse, and elves are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that apparently, like, fucking J.K. Rowling just hated the modern day. Like, no, the world's continuously getting worse, even though, technically speaking, society really isn't. Violent crime has been continuously going down.
Did you mean J.R.R. Tolkien?
No, I meant... I might have meant... yes, I meant Jolkin, Rolkin, Token. Not Jarton, Rarton, Martin.
Oh my gosh, what is this?
Oh, God. He can make his own choices, and at that point, Harry will consider his task complete. Then he could choose to do other things. I swear to God, if Harry is not the villain by the end of this writer is an idiot.
Maybe they're going that way.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too, but I'm holding out hope because I'm an optimist.
They don't seem self-aware to do that. I mean, self-aware enough to do that. I've created characters that are technically the villain.
Late on his first evening... I know who you were talking about, but the audience isn't going to know.
Exactly.
Late on his first evening in residence, Harry found himself back inside the ritual chamber on the 3rd floor. He began to read the volumes contained there. He didn't even realize he'd spent the entire night in intense concentration.
One book of rituals utterly fascinated Harry Potter. You could have just said Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful rituals of blood adoption.
That sounds.
Is he planning on starting a family?
Maybe, I don't know. Is he gonna become the villain? Like,
you're my child now. Wait, what?
That's my child now.
Oh God! Kind of like kidnapping. Apparently, Harry Potter calls it blood adoption.
He wondered why he was so mesmerized by this book in particular. Nothing in his conscious mind could account for it.
Maybe it's because of the fact that his kids are dead.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
He needs children to fill the hole.
He needs children to consume and restore his youth.
I'm sorry, John. Or I guess in this case, I'm sorry, Ron. Was the book charmed or cursed in some way with children?
Harry didn't know. He read for the rest of the day until he'd finished the entire massive volume. Good Lord, man, get some sleep.
Ideas danced in Harry's head like the proverbial sugar plum just outside of his conscious mind. I'm not going to lie, if someone used that line in a story, that would actually be interesting.
Mm-hmm. December 7th, 1978.
I mean, it would be unnecessary, but, like, depending on, like, their writing style, it could probably work.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Ideas danced in their mind like the proverbial sugar plum. God, they were hungry.
That could be funny.
Harry was severely annoyed by the lack of progress in Britain. The Death Eaters had been mostly been rounded up in Britain and seemed like the worst. And what seemed like the worst offenders inside the ministry had been, at the very least, fired.
But that hadn't begun any kind of healing or reconciliation process.
Could no one think of the big picture? Harry, you were a Rorschach mask away from being mildly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Could no one envision a better society? Why do I feel like this person would actually consider, like, the psychology of Ayn Rand a good thing? Or Aaron Rand? Ian Rand?
Which...
Objectivist philosophy.
Possibly. I don't know.
The whole thing about it, though, is the issue that, very least in its early stages, it was also rather sexist.
Mm-hmm. Harry sat down to write. He'd send an article into his usual contacts at Ireland's main newspaper, The Magical Defender.
Granted, it's also like hardcore capitalist, which isn't typically a good thing. Because that's basically all about trotting on the lower class, because they can't afford to buy shit. Britain at a crossroads.
The question for our magical friends in Britain is, what will they do now to stop the next Dark Lord from rising in 30 years?
Why do you think immediately 30 years?
Mm.
Does a new Dark Lord appear every 30 years?
In the wizardry world, yes.
Apparently. If they allow the recent wounds of the last war to fester, there will certainly be another would-be conqueror to deal with in a few decades, just as Voldemort followed on from Grindelwald, who emulated the Dark Baron Erskine in the late 1890s, who was actually apprenticed to the Dark Prince of Crimea in the late 1860s.
What are the
I'm pretty sure 2 of those are made up.
Probably.
Okay, let me search.
Should I wait to read or
Baron. Was it Erskine or Erskine?
Erskine, Dark Baron Erskine.
Okay, because I found a Baron Erskine. Baron Erskine. I highly doubt it's this, but because I highly doubt it's this guy. Of Restormal Castle in the county of Cornwall is a title in the peerage of the United Kingdom since 1960. It's a subsidiary title of Earldom of Buchan. Buchan? One of two. It was created in 1806 for the Honorable Thomas Erskine.
Yeah,
on his appointment to Lord High Chancellor, a post he held until the following year. He was the third and youngest son of Henry Erskine, 10th Earl of Buchan. See Earl of Buchan for early history of the family. Lord Erskine was succeeded by his eldest son, the 2nd Baron. He was a diplomat. His 2 eldest sons, the 3rd and 4th Baron, succeeded successfully. I don't know why. That phrase makes me laugh. Okay, they succeeded successfully. I know what they mean, but the latter was succeeded by his son, the 5th Baron. He was deputy lieutenant of Northamptonshire. Whoops.
Yeah, I highly doubt this is what they meant. Yeah.
Yeah, so being as not even a link to the Harry Potter wiki popped up, yes, they just made this person up.
What are the problems the British face? Some families want stability at any cost and will support the ministry whenever a dark voice rises up. Other families wish to reclaim what they consider to be their heritage, the various forms of the dark arts. Other individuals merely fester and stew over the wrongs done to them in the past by enemies of the family. There are a number of almost legendary private vendettas at work even today, like the one between the Bagshots and the Flints, the Weasleys and the extinct Malfoy line.
Well, it's not at play anymore if they're extinct.
Or the one that caused both the Rockwall and Finneyfern families to become extinct 5 years ago.
Also, I don't remember there actually being a rivalry between the Weasleys and the Malfoys. It was just that the Weasleys were poor and the Malfoys were rich. The Weasley patriarch at the time was fascinated by Muggle culture, whereas the Malfoys at the time were aligned with Lord Voldemort, who was very much a wizard racist. I don't think that was necessarily a rivalry so much as just they didn't see eye to eye at the time.
There was no feud. It was
more a combination of classism and differing opinions. I wouldn't call that a blood feud. Holy shit, the fireworks are picking up, and I'm unsure if that's actually catching on the mic.
I'm hearing a couple every now and then.
Oh my god, it actually popped up right there.
I heard those too.
Oh, you're done now? Okay.
Yeah, it's your line. Sorry, I should have said something.
No, I was talking about the fireworks.
Oh, okay.
There are private vendettas at work even today, like the one between the Weasleys and the now extinct Malfoy. Wait. God, that was so stupid. It was funny. The Wizarding world isn't large enough to support the volume and intensity of feuds we have been maintaining in the last century. So, how does a small group of British witches and wizards even begin to remedy the problem?
Put an end to the private feuds by having all participants, official or otherwise, in the last war testify at a public truth commission. Empower the commission to grant amnesty to anyone who testifies, who is not guilty of committing murder, torture, or other atrocities. Ensure all convicted criminals testify under veritaserum as part of their sentences. Don't let the happenings of the war fester in people's minds. Bring out all the stories from all the sides. Perhaps that which divides the various sides isn't all that insurmountable, but they will not know unless they have all the facts. Okay, so I stated before that all forms of art have some sort of message, whether intentional or otherwise. And due to death of the author, it doesn't even need to be the message that it was
written with the intention of.
Mm-hmm.
This story has been stating that the proper way to deal with problems is via totalitarian rule.
Yeah, nope, that is not lost on me at all. It's like, wow, this sounds a lot like Hitler.
Not Hitler. It's the
Well,
fucking
not-
world of
Hitler,
the George Orwell novel.
1984.
1984. It's the fucking world of 1984. Harry
Yes.
Potter is Big Brother. Big Brother is watching.
Huh. He must follow the code of Harry.
Like, tell me I'm wrong with that.
No, you're correct. I just said Hitler because that was the first dictator that
yes,
came
that's
to
the
my
first
mind.
thing that pops into everyone's mind, but that's not even true totalitarianism. That's fucking utilitarianism. That's different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is like I guess you could say this is more like North Korea. Like, basically, this is suggesting that everything that is done needs to be dictated by a higher up, by higher authority. Like,
someone who knows better.
We can't have people having rivalries, therefore we need to put it into all interpersonal rivalries. We need to have everyone involved in these interpersonal rivalries come forward and testify under truth serum. This is not how you deal with problems.
No, this is not at all.
Oh, God. Given the dark families of Britain and Europe, give the dark families of Britain and Europe some of what they speak. Look at so-called dark arts in a more logical, sensible fashion. Destroy them with logic and fact. Because that's a sentiment that makes sense. Establish a definition. In the 14th century, Ribald the Wise put forth the notion that the dark arts be those which mar men's souls. Perhaps it no longer applies as a criterion, but the current ministry bans stretch from the mind arts to blood and death rituals and includes everything in between. That certainly isn't sensible either. I'm sorry. Death and blood rituals? We should let those keep going. We should let those be done. Not all offensive spells are dark. Not all rituals, though banned, cause damage to men's souls. Okay, I'm just going to search Ribald the Wise. Feel free to read.
Okay. There are at present a number of fruitful areas of magic that are outright prohibited from study because of little more than fear. Allow people to openly practice the mind arts. Okay. Permit books on the subject to be purchased, studied, and taught. Reevaluate the ban on potions that rely upon willingly...
The only reference I'm getting is that chapters of this popping up.
Willingly given human blood. From a survey of extant books, there are cures for a number of diseases and mental disorders among this class of potions. Reopen the study of rituals. Some of them are useful in calming and pacifying angry spirits, in permitting trapped ghosts to pass on to the next plane of existence, or in protecting very young children from harms, magical and physical. Permit offensive magics to be taught in our schools. Require all students to learn magical dueling. As they are increasingly afraid of the dark, they risk losing the proud heritage of being skilled fighters. Okay.
Oh my god. And this is just starting to sound more like the whole thing of like everything was better back in my day. Increasingly afraid of the dark. Okay. But oh god. That was audible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Let's see. What was that whole thing? Upon willingly given human blood. Okay, that one I can understand, but you also have the whole issue of whether or not that actually matters to the spell.
Yeah.
Because I'd imagine that for some of these rituals, it would have to be fresh. Just a thought. You may ask if it is not odd or contradictory to say that British must teach students that the British Must teach students to fight if they wish to prevent wizarding wars in the future. It's not. Dark Lords evolve out of fear and ignorance of things that are poorly understood. Or you could let the combat training be voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be like having it mandatory that people attend martial arts classes.
Yeah.
That's not something that a stable leader does.
Yeah, just...
Just gonna put that out there.
That's just... And with magic being flung around and kids being kids, that's not a good idea.
Well, I mean, granted, if you are going to teach someone that sort of thing, teach them young. That way, as they grow up, they are used to that being something that they should handle responsibly.
Yeah, no argument.
But at the same time, there is a certain age that you want to start that, and it's not young enough to where they think that, like, melting their cousin is a good idea.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, or trying to anyway.
Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway. Let's see, where was that?
If all students learn offensive, I think.
No, been at the beginning. Wait. Marrington Soul, it would have been after. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. If all students learn offensive and defensive magic, or you could focus on defensive. The Allure. I mean, hell, Harry Potter got by just by knowing Expelliarmus. The allure to follow someone not promised to teach these currently illegal magics will lessen. If they reintegrate many of the improperly designated dark arts into society, much of the old mantra used by Voldemort and others will have less power. I'm pretty sure the mantra was essentially just like wizards are great, muggles are less than human. Also, I deserve to be in charge.
Yeah. At the same time, they must open their eyes and reduce their complacency. This will help to ensure the stability that a number of families seek and desire from the Ministry of Magic. Witches and wizards are strong individuals. If they are wronged without avenues for redress, they will turn to powerful, even self-destructing magics to achieve their aims. People who can have their problems fixed through the government simply and without corruption will usually choose to do that. People who must fight the bureaucracy or pay bribes to be heard may turn to other means of effecting change, such as intimidation, violence, or outright revolt and open warfare. Kind of like you did. How they make themselves more accountable, more open to the needs of those with silenced voices, is something for public debate, but it is not something they can all ignore as if they were Crouches, Fudges, and Bagnolds.
See, here's the thing, though. It was okay when Harry did it because he's the good guy.
Yeah, lovely.
Like, ignoring the fact that morality is honestly, when you get down to it, for the most part, subjective. I mean, yes, there are a few things that you can't really justify, but besides the point. It's like, you could justify killing a person, say, if it was in self-defense. That's justification. That's technically a justification for murder. You can't justify sexual assault. There's no way you can do that. Because you can't say that you sexually assaulted someone in self-defense. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way.
No.
But yeah, basically, like, for the most part, though, morality is subjective. For instance, you're in a terrible situation. You need to eat to survive, but you have no way of getting food in an upstanding way, so you steal. You're doing what you need to survive, and say you're also in a situation where you're also, like, looking after some people in this situation. Steal food for them. Again, another situation where you can't exactly say that what they were doing was truly in the wrong. Like, that sort of thing. But at the same time, dear God. Like, it's the fact that it's the way that it's presented is that there are better ways that he could go about this. And the fact that what he's doing is, when you get down to it, hurting people simply based on his judgment alone.
Mm-hmm. No
And
one person is incorruptible.
There's no introspection. There's no guilt. Like, there is no admission that he is not necessarily in the right. It's just he's doing it, so it's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the issue with the story comes in.
Mm-hmm. And had they added some introspection, this could actually be a pretty interesting and decent story.
Hell, if the narrative were trying to actually push forward that what he was doing were wrong, but since we're seeing it from the viewpoint of Harry alone, we aren't actually seeing that as much. And instead, we're merely having this presented to us by the actions of the characters around them and his impact on the world.
Mm-hmm.
But we aren't.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing to be gleaned through the cracks.
Yeah, it's just a mess.
The war is over. It is now time to get to work preventing the next one.
Harry thought the article rushed and short, but it would do to help to help start the world on its path.
You call that article rushed? Dear God.
He would follow up with other articles for other news providers on the same idea. He would slowly unwind a number of suggestions people might choose to follow. Oh boy.
Because here's also the whole thing. This article is basically just saying Harry's in the right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's part of the whole thing is... Yes, this idea that we need some sort of police state that is keeping everyone in check in some way is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
There's no thing of just... There's no, like, question of, oh, did actually doing this thing open the door for a bigger problem or anything like that? No, it's just... We need to tackle this whole thing because of the fact that we need to tackle this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Circular reasoning.
Yes. Harry couldn't force the world to be a better place, but he's certainly trying. But he could show them a possible path or two. He could try to push them along a time or three. But if they didn't want it, Harry couldn't make it happen.
That didn't mean he wasn't going to try.
There's also the fact that we're working on the assumption... Again, it's the whole thing of Harry's in the right. Like, no matter what Harry believes is the right thing is the right thing. That's
dumb. He's very dumb.
The writer's kind of dumb.
There was so much wrong, Harry wondered if the real leaders were just scared to even start somewhere. He hoped someone would steal a few ideas from his article and just get started doing something.
Therefore, we should let Superman throw all our nukes into the sun. If anyone knows what I'm referencing.
Trying to think.
Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden, we have a clone of Superman made using Lex Luthor's DNA called Nuclear Man, who's powered by the sun. That's right, our symbol of the dangers of nuclear energy is energy efficient. He's green. And also, he's apparently also the version of Doomsday from Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. God, that is a terrible title to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, that is the whole thing from Doomsday in that movie, is that he is a mix of Zod's DNA, a Kryptonian's, and Lex Luthor's, which somehow created Doomsday. Like, Doomsday's actual origin is stupid, but it makes more sense. I can wrap my head around a baby being launched out of a cannon and dying repeatedly and then being rebuilt better than I can. This giant engine of destruction, this giant inhuman of destruction was created by combining Lex Luthor and Zod.
Mm-hmm.
I could wrap my head around that more. But yes, the climax of Dawn of Justice is the climax of Superman 4.
Hey.
Because fuck you. January 7th, 1979. it's a good thing that Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman were made.
Mm-hmm. I still
That
need
way
to
we could
watch.
have some good DC movies.
Yeah, I still need to watch Aquaman and
I mean, aside from one
Shazam.
part with Teen Aquaman, it's good.
Hmm.
Because Teen Aquaman was when it started going into... Like, there's one scene going back with Teen Aquaman, and that's when it started doing, like, the usual DC movie bullshit of, like, melodramatics, and I was almost like, you know, there's a joke to be made about the fact that the angsty teen is the one acting like, causing it to be like the majority of DC movies.
That sounds like it makes it better.
It would if it weren't for the fact that it was annoying. It also doesn't help that the person they got to stand in for teenage Jason Momoa wasn't a very good actor.
Uh-oh. That's always a not so fun thing.
Granted, there was also kind of the whole thing that made me laugh of like when the Trident's being spun and like it's being like this Trident's the spinning Trident to CGI, and oh god, I forgot his name. It was the guy who played Green Goblin.
Oh, William Dafoe?
William Dafoe. Like, you could tell that William Dafoe, like, the way his hands are not they're not moving nearly fast enough for it to be spinning that speed. Because he's just, like, kind of, like turning his hands, like, at a relaxed pace. And it's just whipping around at high speed. And I was just like, God damn it, that does not look good. This entire scene is a train wreck. Like, at least when Jason Momoa was doing it, he's putting some energy into it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's Jason Momoa, so you're too busy getting lost in his eyes to notice.
You and your man crushes.
He's a beautiful man.
Alistair Moody lived in a Muggle neighborhood outside Bristol. The house was a ramshackle building that was rumored to be haunted and that the Muggle neighbors demanded to be torn down.
God.
I'm hearing that too.
Yeah. God damn it. It's not the 4th anymore. It's the fucking 6th.
They're just
Fuck you, Till.
They're just trying to do something with the fire that's burning that burned their money in their pockets. They're lighting off all the rest of the fireworks.
The whole world is on fire. And we started the fire. We can't put out the fire. He used very light words around, primarily to scare away any curious school children intent on exploring the haunted house. At the perimeter of the house, Alistair used the full package of wards, as strong as Harry could remember seeing on a residential property. Oh god, I just flashed back to a joke about when the bard bluffs.
This was the third night Harry had spent attempting to determine the weaknesses in the wards. The problem was that there weren't any. Harry could bring them all down, no problem, just throw magic at them. It would be big and splashy and utterly obvious, but he couldn't slip past them and surprise old Moody, the now confirmed head Auror.
Okay, I guess. Oh, god damn it, it finished loading right whenever I clicked it. There we go. But I need to remember this in case the party ever sets something on fire.
Well, that's probably going to happen at some point in time.
2 of the players. Oh, and we need to talk our way out of it, because given 2 of the players...
Mm-hmm. I know what you're referring to. I've seen this comic. It's very good.
Yes. Is it weird that I've had more experience with the Homestuck parody of the song than the actual song? Clerics, Primal Fae, Wild Magic, Hunter's Prey, Tavern Winches, Ghost Ships, Fighter Wizard, Level Dips, One-Eyed Tiefling stacking decks, Clerics making buff checks, Drunken Orc, Drunks the Fray, Double Fumble, Scorching Ray, we didn't start the fire!
Well, you get an inspiration point, but the party's going to jail now.
You inspired the person you were bluffing. Wait, what?
No. I'm saying the bard would get an inspiration point to be spent.
I was still laughing how hilarious it would be if, like, ended up giving an inspiration point just because of that like flip Sazerac did to get into the wagon. Let's do an acrobatics check to see how well I get into the wagon while it's moving.
Well, you technically
Nat
could have
20.
given you could have given them bardic inspiration from doing such a thing. Just that one's on you.
Bardic inspiration for one of the sessions where we're not fighting anyone. I definitely could have taken the horde of zombies, motherfucker.
You mean the one that I didn't write down the stats for all of them? I mean,
yeah, we just know it was more than 10. Oh, god damn it. We didn't start the fight.
It's your line.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what line.
Wanted information.
He wanted information, not attention.
He changed his plan and decided to pull a trick he knew had worked in the future. He deliberately tripped some of the wards near Moody's garbage cans and set the things to bashing each other. Sure enough, within moments, Moody was out in his yard casting spells at his misbehaving objects. Barty Crouch Jr. had pulled the same trick before Harry's 4th year at Hogwarts.
I mean, you know, a better way to do that instead of like relying entirely on magic. You catch a raccoon.
Using magic.
Put it in one of the trash cans, and then you trip the ward. That way, when he goes out to see what the problem is, he's distracted by a raccoon that just jumped out and tried to maul him. Better yet, you catch 2 raccoons, and you put them in each of the bins, you motherfucker. It's not trash can. Get it right. I mean, it's not garbage can. Get it right. Fucking bin.
Trash pandas.
You put the trash pandas in the bin. God damn it. This story takes place in the UK. Use the appropriate lingo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in one of the 50 Shades book where these people from fucking Seattle use the word arse.
Okie dokie then.
Because that makes sense.
It doesn't.
Glenn and Harry thought of this earlier, trying to get into defenses like Moody had. Get Moody to step out. Don't try to get into defenses like Moody had. Get Moody to step out of them.
Harry quickly stunned the old Auror, then dispelled the enchantment on the garbage cans, trash bins. He separated Moody from his 2 wands and hip flask. One could only guess what the man actually kept in there. Probably alcohol.
Kerosene.
Yeah,
man's a hard drinker.
Yeah, that would make sense. The man was in his night cloak. Otherwise, he probably would have had a port key or 3 on him.
Harry grasped the man's shoulder and apparated him away. He used the same cottage where he had taken Lucius Malfoy for questioning. That seemed years ago.
Harry carefully disguised himself. He didn't know if the Auror had done anything to himself to increase his resistance to memory charms, but Harry didn't want to give the Auror clues in any case.
He placed a strong dose of Veritaserum in the man's mouth. 6 drops. He overdosed and died.
Uh-oh.
Then woke him up. And then woke him.
Auror Moody, how many Aurors have you convicted of crimes and sent to Azkaban in the last year?
The gruff man had glassy eyes and let the potion overpower his resistance. 40.
How do you feel about them?
Angry, revolted, betrayed.
Harry nodded. How many Aurors were fired for any reason in the last year?
16.
How many ministry officials who aren't Aurors are you investigating today?
The man sounded feral. He even threw the truth potion when he answered. 107!
That had Harry almost in shock. He hadn't realized that the Death Eaters had had so much support. Or was it a catch-all for various witch hunts?
How many of them are suspected of being Death Eater sympathizers?
70 or so. That was a jaw-dropping number. Harry had only heard Rookwood and Lestrange discuss 4 names. Could there really be that many?
And the rest?
They did work for the Death Eaters under the Imperius Curse. We're restoring memories and trying to piece together who did what to whom.
Harry nodded. He assumed Arthur Weasley would be horrified when he learned of his unwilling assistance identifying Muggle-born witches and wizards to the Death Eaters.
When is Barty Crouch to be tried?
He already was.
I didn't read the transcript of the paper.
The Ministry evoked a secrecy statute as Crouch was a department head. The Wizengamot convicted him. He'll never be returning from Azkaban.
How long ago was this?
3 months.
And no notice will be published?
The minister is dead set against it. His words, "With the disaster in the Auror ranks, I can't see how the news of Barty's fate would help anyone at this point."
Harry was unhappy with this revelation, but not terribly surprised. The minister was presiding over a broken ship of state, and he was trying to use secrecy to improve his image.
The man definitely had to go.
How many Death Eaters?
Okay, god damn it. We need to keep a good public image so that we don't have the people in a panic.
Mm-hmm.
The man has to go. Why do you think your government hasn't told you about aliens? I can say this, I am an alien.
How many Death Eaters had been sent to Azkaban without trial?
One went and looked. We found 7 people who'd never been tried. 5 had the dark mark.
Harry continued asking about the Ministry until he was satisfied he understood the situation. Then his questions turned to Albus Dumbledore.
Why did you join the Order of the Phoenix?
I joined when Arbitus Fortesk headed the DMLE. He was a nice enough man, but he couldn't wrap his head around dealing with Death Eaters. He should have stepped down, but didn't. I went looking for a better option.
Wasn't the Order the same as the Dimmel?
The Dimmel. No, not at all. We responded before the Auras many times. We brought down Death Eaters. Albus had long talked of getting ourselves a spy or two among them, but it never happened. We did the best we could. We did more than the Ministry did, even after Crouch took over.
Why was Barty Crouch so empowered and respected? It seemed like he was a lock on them. On the Ministry election.
Cult of personality. He seemed like he was doing a good job. People wanted it to be true. So the newspapers made it true, giving the man more power, until they brought him back down to Earth after his son was found on the pike.
Harry never felt more reassured about his plan to remain perpetually in the shadows in his timeline. He wouldn't have wanted to be back in the headlines again. He would have done little or nothing to teach these morons self-sufficiency.
How is the idea of a truth commission playing out in the Ministry?
Most everyone, the minister especially, hates it. But no one seems able to stop it. The people want to know what happened, when, and why. I think the minister may try to scuttle it by naming incompetence to the panel.
Harry nodded. It made sense. Helfgott would protect his own legacy by obscuring the past, hiding the truth.
Or maybe it's just the fact that not everything should be public record, you fuck. God damn it. The questions continued on long into the night. When Moody woke up the next morning on the lawn of his home, he remembered damn enchanted trash cans. Evidently, some prankster had charmed them to attack Moody, as he had a lump on his forehead and a garbage can lying next to him, its contents scattered everywhere.
April 12th, 1979.
Harry watched Dumbledore's attempts to restore his own luster with a good deal of interest. He'd offered his own name as a truth commissioner, which had been quietly rejected. He offered 6 pieces of legislation, none of which received a hearing.
His newest attempts in the Wizengamot were detailed in the Daily Prophet, which was also feeling considerable public pressure. Harry's book on the Prophet's antics had been followed by 3 others focused on different aspects of what they'd done. The paper had ignored all 4 books, but each one had received extensive international coverage.
The Prophet was attempting to restore some luster by bringing Dumbledore down a few pegs. Congratulations, you've created more rivalries, you dumb fuck.
Disgraced former Chief Warlock fails to stall Truth Commission.
Albus Dumbledore, former leader of the Wizengamot, age 98, introduced a bill yesterday at the start to set the starting date of the Truth Commission to no earlier than February 1st, 1980. The bill received no seconding motion to be read and was not considered by the full Wizengamot.
In his offering remarks, Dumbledore said, "The truth is a powerful thing, but we must all be prepared to face it. I suspect that this Truth Commission would do far more harm than good if it began this summer as the current proposal indicates. I want to ensure that the witches and wizards of Britain are braced for such turbulence.
I agree with Dumbledore here.
I do too, actually.
This reporter finds Dumbledore's remarks on the truth rather ludicrous given his own personal revelations of recent memory. This action played to the other elders of the Wizengamot as a naked attempt to avoid being called to account in a public forum.
This reporter relishes the day she can listen to what Albus Dumbledore has to say about his role in the war. My quill will be especially sharp that day.
Harry wondered if the unsigned piece was written by one Rita Skeeter. Probably so. Honestly, that was what I thought.
Mm-hmm. I've let this go on for a long time. I wonder. Harry ate his breakfast while pondering the ritual he had used on Dumbledore's portrait, labeling the old man an enemy betrayer of the Potter family.
Why did I think that said breakfast burrito?
I don't know, but that's hilarious. Harry ate his breakfast burrito.
Oh, God, I've burnt my mouth. No, that'd just be the microwavable ones. What's with that? Because if it's like any shorter amount of time, it's cold in the middle, but if I do it the proper amount of time, the first bite burns my mouth.
Mm-hmm. What I usually do...
Like pizza, I can't just shove more in there to remedy the issue.
What I usually do is open it up, pour on some cold salsa, which cools it off a little bit, and then I eat it. But that's me.
I'm not putting on salsa.
Okay.
It worked to great effect had he been alive. It worked then to great effect. Had he been alive, his very magic would have torn at him until he publicly admitted his treachery. Just telling the truth to the public would have ended the torment, but dead, with no public to hear the confession and absolve the crime the magic tied to his soul, would just keep attacking. Wait, why did that start as a quote? What? Is he... Oh my God, he's talking
He's
to
monologuing.
himself.
He's monologuing.
Oh, he's monologuing.
Using the curse now could be a simple way...
You sly dog, you caught me monologuing.
Using the curse now could be a simple way to deal with him. Let the curse torment him into revealing the whole and unvarnished truth. He'd have to publicly own up to everything the books have said. He's never admitted anything publicly. It would be best if he was forced to show his true face. Even his handful of loyalists would have to abandon him.
Hey, Harry, how about we use that on you and see how that turns out?
Yeah, no kidding.
Harry worked through the logistics, and the further he thought about the problem, the more desirable and impossible this particular solution became. Let's also talk about the fact that this is something that is tormenting someone for betraying a family line. There's several things I could get into, including the fact that this seems to be a writer-exclusive thing.
That's a very harsh thing to do.
The fact that it's like not even, if memory serves, it wasn't even like a proper spell. It was just declaration.
He's not done anything to the Potter family in this timeline, has he? No Fidelius to fail, no enabling Peter Pettigrew to betray anyone, no baby Harry dumped on a doorstep, no child-friendly gauntlet for the Philosopher's Stone, no arranging the Triwizard Tournament to come to Hogwarts. He's clean from the Potter family perspective, but what about other families?
Wait, what? No child-friendly gauntlet?
I just imagine a kid with the Infinity Gauntlet on just because it's funny.
Oh, God. Now I'm just thinking back to that one line at the end of the Stupendium's Spider-Man video game rap, where J. Jonah Jameson says, "If it was up to me, folks, if I really had my way, I'd simply snap my fingers and they'd all just go away." Yep. That was an Infinity Gauntlet reference.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, Harry with the Infinity Gauntlet. That would be a terrible idea.
This universe is Harry or the Harry Potter in the books?
Both.
True.
Harry's shown to be slightly impulsive in the regular universe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Wait, okay, just because he would have arranged for the Triwizard Tournament to come to Hogwarts as well doesn't mean that he arranged for Harry to be put into it. That was Crouch Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Harry, like Dumbledore was, depending on which source you look at, varying degrees of upset that Harry had been put into it.
Mm-hmm.
From screaming to just very calmly saying, "Did you do this?"
Mm-hmm.
After all, there was stuff put in place to make sure that someone Harry's age could not. And if memory serves, that was actually unique for that year.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so like Dumbledore made a point to make sure that Harry wouldn't have been able to join.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, this writer is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Harry nodded and began to trace down the pathways of who might be eligible and what he knew about those families.
Honestly, this writer just seems to have a hate boner for Dumbledore.
Maybe they're just homophobic.
That's also possible.
They were really upset whenever Dumbledore was confirmed gay.
It's not perfect. He never wronged anyone in the old timeline as much as the Potters. It'll have to be something else, won't it?
Oh. God. God damn it. I want to reach through the screen and bitch slap the author.
Mm-hmm.
You gave up the half-formed plan. You'd have to find another way. Oh, what's the word? Something the thought.
Perish the thought.
Perish the thought. That's the word.
He'd finished his breakfast and continued reading the newspaper. In the back, he saw the rather tedious legal notification. One caught his eye. Ministry of Magic announces ministerial elections to be held December 15th, 1979. All newt qualified witches and wizards over the age of 30 may campaign in the race starting on May 1st, 1979.
That made Harry quite happy. Ronaldo Helfgott was a moron. He was likely to be extremely unpopular, even more than he currently was after the Truth Commission.
Perhaps a powerful witch or wizard in the minister's role could deal with Dumbledore. But who?
Oh boy. Harry smiled. What?
You skipped a line.
Oh, but who? Who?
Harry smiled.
Hello, what are you doing here?
He wondered if he might be able to draft his grandfather, Harris Potter, for the role. Light-oriented, wealthy, and thereby fairly incorruptible.
Excuse me? Wealthy, therefore he won't be corrupted.
With a well-known position on the Death Eaters and their ideological supporters.
Supportals.
They're like
it's
portals.
Support portal. Supportal.
It's
either that or it's a support turtle.
I like that idea better.
I don't know. Support portal works well.
Just
set up supportals around the area.
I'm just imagining a supportal, and it's like it shoots out like an encouraging message every morning or something. Like, you've got this, or just something dumb.
It's technically a turtle. It was an interesting idea.
Harris Potter for minister.
Draft Harris Potter.
Put a Potter in the minister's office.
Kill the president. Wait.
Kill the Batman. Okay, so
you are my number one, and I.
All right, so we've got 2 more sections. Do we want to finish out this chapter?
Let's just finish this chapter.
Okay, sounds like
the sooner this is over, the better.
Okay.
May 6th, 1979.
Okay, it was your line.
Yes.
Harry had purchased a pair of Muggle binoculars for the special occasion. Omnioculars hadn't been invented yet, it seemed. Okay? Are you sure about that?
Well, all I can think about now is the card Omnibian.
The what?
Okay, it's one of the cards from like back when Ravnica was first introduced. So way back when, a few years back, years before like modern Ravnica blocks started up.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Okay, there we go. Find this because dear God, it's in the Simic Guild kit. Okay. Because if memory serves, this was back. Yeah, it's like back from when the guy before Zegana was in charge. But it's a 3/3 frog. And the ability it has is goddamn hilarious.
Target creature becomes a frog with base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. That's great.
It turns other things into frogs.
That's great.
Oh god, I just realized a terrifying situation. Combine it with Progenitor Mimic.
Oh no.
Everything that you own is now 3/3 frogs. And I can just keep doing it more and more. God. It's a good thing that doesn't work with the Renatka deck. Because that would be terrible.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
Good thing that doesn't work with +1/+1 counters. Anyway. Shit, where were Omniculars. Omnibian. From a few hundred yards away, Harry Potter was watching his parents' wedding reception. The creep. They were at the newly rebuilt Potter Manor. The charmed satchels of belongings, portraits, and books had been restored into a building that looked old but felt more welcoming than the earlier Potter Manor.
He watched James and Lily Potter dancing. He caught sight of Sirius Black charming 3 different witches at various points during the afternoon. He saw Remus politely dance with a few older witches and then decline a few invitations from some younger ones. The poor man seemed to already be withdrawing from the world.
Don't worry, at some point he'll meet Tonks. Oh wait, no, Harry fucked up the timeline. Was it Tonks?
Yep.
Yeah. The, what was it called? Like Polymagus?
I think so. Polymagus, yeah. I think
because like the Marauders were animated.
Yes. You looking it up?
Yeah. Wait, I could just search Tonks. Tonks. Okay. Apparently, it doesn't pop up with her last name. Nymphadora. Okay, Tonks is her last. Oh, Metamorph Magus.
Huh.
Power shape-shifting Metamorph Magus. I do know that, yeah, she is like, if memory serves, Bellatrix Lestrange's cousin. Because one of the things that was commented on... Oh, she's a Hufflepuff.
Cool.
But one of the things that was commented on during one of the Death Eater meetings was the fact that one of Bellatrix Lestrange's cousins, Nymphadora Tonks, had hooked up with a werewolf, and jokes were made at that expense. So not only are they anti-muggle, by also having a werewolf among their rank way.
Yeah.
Nah, no one said racism made sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
I mean, depending on where you are, it's caused by different things. For instance, in the West, it's mostly driven by religion, weirdly enough. Or at least that's that's the initiator for it becoming culturally ingrained, was the belief that people of European descent were God's chosen few.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alistair Moody was there and even danced with Minerva McGonagall. Holy shit. Dyslexia is just kicking my ass right now. It gets worse when I'm tired. An ancient Bathilda Bagshot was present, and she was leaning into Xenophilius Lovegood, lecturing him on some topic lecturing him on some topic at what was probably the top of her voice. The Quibbler hadn't come into existence yet, but many of Xeno's stranger ideas likely had.
Harry spotted the present minister gobbling up some treacle tarts. Ronaldo Helfgott looked like a cross between a constipated mule and a devious feral dog who was deciding whether to beg for scraps or bite the hand of anyone who came close to him. That's
a really stupid description.
It was so dumb, it was funny. He really shouldn't be allowed to reproduce, let alone lead a country. Good lord, man!
What the fuck does that description even mean?
I don't even know, but
Constipated mule and a feral dog? What? So is it just an angry, constipated dog?
Possibly.
I'm pretty sure if you're constipated, you're already angry.
Mm-hmm.
Harris Potter and his wife Eloise were telling some kind of amusing story to a group of younger people arrayed near them. They looked above school age, but rather fit compared to the other adults. Some of James' Quidditch colleagues, perhaps?
That's the thing. Do you have to be fit to ride a broom? Like,
I mean, technically speaking, kinda, because of the fact of the directionality for it is largely muscle controls. I mean, think of it kind of like riding a bike or a motorcycle, but with a much smaller seat, and all of the directionality of it is based on your balance.
okay,
At the very
yeah.
least, you're going to have a highly trained kinesthetic sense.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
On top of that, you also have the people. On top of that, much like other sports, you're going to have the fact that you are going to have some sort of muscular skill in throwing the ball, like throwing balls, catching balls, deflecting. If you're one of the people who deals with the is it just that they're no, they're not called the bludgers. The ball that hits people is called the bludger. If you're one of the people that's dealing with the bludgers, one of the two on that team, you're going to have to
The beaters.
Beaters. You're going to have some sort of like the same kind of muscular strength that like majority of baseball players would have, in that you're going to be able to hit things very hard and very precisely.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
And don't even get me started on how like limber the Seekers would likely have to be for the fact that they're doing more of a high-speed pursuit type thing, which, yes, part of that is the broom that they'd be using, but there's also the fact that you're going to need to be able to more fine-tune the control, like your directional control with that.
Yeah, true enough. It's like, I wasn't thinking. You're right, though. Was it my line now? Yes, it is.
Yes.
Bottle after bottle of goblin and elven wine were poured. Hundreds of tiny tarts and savory
I don't
food.
like the way they spelled elven.
Yeah, I don't either. And tiny tarts and savory foods of all varieties were paraded around on trays or left at the serving table. It was the party of the year, as lavish as any post-Voldemort celebration had been. Harry was going off the published reports for the other parties.
Oh, how funny. He used his binoculars to survey everything. He saw the mound of presents that the guests had brought along, and the tiny elf who accepted each one and put it safely on a table. He saw 3 people apparate outside the wards and walk inside to the party. None of them stopped by the gift table.
The gut instinct Harry had been born with suggested there was something odd about these people. 3 women bearing no gifts coming late to a party. Was it a group of Death Eaters under Polyjuice? Was it someone aiming to assassinate the minister as he stuffed his gullet? A group of reporters attempting to sneak in?
You know, not everyone who goes to a party has to bring a gift, right? And it could have easily been that they had something going on to where they would have been late.
But Llytic, it's his gut feeling. Come on, man.
Harry trained the binoculars on the faces of the 3. One was quite ancient, one was perhaps 40, but poorly maintained. Okay. One had a vacant expression and had hair like a bird's nest and about 7 different colored shawls draped around her body.
Harry looked at the youngest one's face again. Trelawney, pre-sherry bottle, hiding in the room of requirement. Trelawney, who wasn't yet a lush. Trelawney, who wouldn't condemn his parents to their deaths. He had hoped never to see the woman again.
She made a prophecy, and therefore it's her fault that they're dead.
Because it has to be someone's fault that Harry can blame.
I'm not stupid enough to blame the person who sees the future on the situation. They're merely reporting what they're seeing.
It's like the whole don't shoot the messenger thing.
Well, apparently Harry wants to.
Yeah, well, we've established Harry is a terrible person in this timeline.
Yes. Harry kept his binoculars trained on her and her odd companions as they avoided the people at the party, didn't introduce themselves to the Potters, and stuck mainly to the places where the elves opened bottles of wine and brought out freshly baked treats. I mean, I do the same thing at parties. Depending on how many people I know.
He was so focused on the strange lady, content to just to sip a dark wine, stain her teeth purple, and eat tiny liver canapes? Canapes? I don't know. Canapes, I'm guessing because of the accent, that he almost missed the entrance of Peter Pettigrew to the area surrounding the food.
Heavy-set little man didn't even seem to notice when he stumbled over the Trelawney. One of Trelawney's shawls. But Harry finally did.
It made him nervous. Trelawney, the whisperer of fate. Pettigrew, the agent of fate, and a bastard to boot. Harry had basically forgotten about both of them.
Also, wouldn't Harry coming back mean that, like, what she foresaw would have been different?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Wait. No, it was still Harry that did the killing. So I guess technically not.
I don't know.
I guess. I guess this technically didn't change anything about what the prophecy would have been, because it was still Harry killing him, so it would have been someone that was a half-blood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Without parents as well, because of the fact in the original timeline Harry's parents did die. Huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. No, wait, I don't think the lack of parents was part of the... I think it was just the half-blood thing. Which, being as his mom was Muggle-born, that technically means that he is half Muggle, half wizard.
Yeah.
As opposed to Voldemort, who's just half Muggle, half wizard the normal way. Except for the fact that his mom used the wizard roofies on his dad. Anyway. The heavy set... Oh, wait, no. But no longer. He'd set something up to observe Sybil Trelawney's mutterings to see if she ever did speak a true prophecy. He'd also have to arrange something for Wormtail. He had been a traitor in the first timeline, and it was obvious that he would twist in the wind at the first sign of trouble. This time, too. If Harry's grandparents, parents, and godfather had a fundamental flaw, it was that they were too trusting and too willing to see the dark that could pollute and mar their putative friend.
Harry don't
necessarily know that.
Harry didn't have the problem of trusting too easily.
No, because he's a bastard.
Mm-hmm.
He would never again let Pettigrew slip away as the unmemorable lump. He was dangerous and would always be dangerous.
Unfortunately for Peter, Harry was even more dangerous.
July 1st, 1979.
Harry loved the smell of the early morning in Diagon Alley. This was the fourth time he'd come here since he'd returned in time. There was now a bakery next to the Quidditch store that produced a wonderful fragrance over the entire alley.
It's called Baked Goods.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Okay. He munched on a freshly baked cauldron cake, pumpkin and chocolate, as he walked down into the public square just beyond Gringotts. Still probably should give the goblins back their sword.
Yeah, it might be a good idea. Pumpkin and chocolate is pretty good, though.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of pumpkin.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of an acquired taste. I didn't like it for the longest time, but now I just really like it.
I'm just not a big fan of squash and chocolate.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that. The inaugural...
You could feed them to blue-tongued skinks.
That'd be interesting to see. The inaugural meeting of the Truth Commission was meeting outside in full view of Diagon Alley as some kind of metaphor for the... Apologies, that's how my dad says that word.
Some kind of metaphor.
That's how my dad says that.
What word, though? What fur, though? What fur?
As some kind of metaphor for the openness they hope to bring to Britain.
Some kind of metaphor for Britain.
Harry
was attending out of interest. and to see how successful various factions of the ministry had been in filling the body with obstructionists and morons. He'd hoped that the British would solve some of their problems by themselves, and then again, so long as the corrupt ministry didn't impinge on an as of yet unborn Harry Potter's ability to live a good life, he would be inclined to let them be. Now that's just the saddest thing I ever did, darn her.
If pigs wanted to live in squalor and discord, who was Harry to preach at them?
I know of plenty of pigs living in Discord. On Discord. Harry looked like a wizened old man. Gray and white locks hanging halfway down his back. He was wearing clean...
Sorry, I'll let you...
The description seemed somewhat like my pa. Somber robes and holding a somewhat garish painted staff. Yep, definitely sounds like my pa.
Harry
never did figure out what exactly happened. One day, a couple of the natives hand him a cactus, and the next day he's going off in the woods.
Harry surveyed the street and noticed that the Truth Commission had taken an office in Diagon Alley, above one of the restaurants rather than one inside the Ministry of Magic. Who knew? It might be worth something.
Restaurant. A few minutes after Harry arrived, a small witch stepped out onto the street, conjured up a long table and then a chair for herself to sit in. Over the next 5 minutes, 6 other individuals arrived at the table, conjured their own chairs, and sat down. Seemed mighty convenient now that I think about it.
Finally, a contingent of horrors surrounded the minister, and a few other officials arrived.
Official business. Good morning. I am Griselda
You missed the line.
Oh, wait, shit. The small witch then stood up and addressed the audience of about 70 witches and wizards, a fairly small turnabout.
Good morning. I am Griselda Marchbanks, elder of the Wizengamot and recently retired chief witch, and I have been asked to chair the Truth Commission. I will introduce the other members, and then we will proceed to the day's business, testing and questioning each of the Truth Commission members for any involvement we might have had in the just-ended war.
Harry was mighty impressed. He hadn't expected the commission members to subject themselves to this kind of precaution. He felt a bit better about the whole exercise. Perhaps this Marchbanks was strong enough to keep the ministry from interfering.
We have 2 other Wizengamot elders, Vernon Quirk and Barris Entwistle. We have invited 2 foreign members, retired Belgian Justice Under Minister Eric Koopman and retired Spanish
I believe
Chief
the word is Belgium.
Yeah, it's saying Belgian, like someone from Belgium.
Yes. I swear you said Belgian. I swear you put a third syllable in there.
I might have, I don't know.
That's what I was referring to.
Oh, maybe I did, I don't know.
Belgian, not Belgian.
Belgian, okay. And retired Spanish Chief Justice Diego Tapias. Also, Tapias. You know what? I'm not going to even forget it. Yeah, let's go with that. Also, we have appointed 2 members of the general public to serve, Sorcha McGoohan and Garlic Keating.
McGoohan.
The officials from the Ministry of Magic are here only to administer the Veritaserum to each of us and to observe the proceedings.
Oh, God. I'm going to be McGoohan at her tonight.
Just read your line.
I got popped into my head and I was like, God damn it. Eric thought the old woman, one of his old owl examiners, first timeline, was exceedingly crafty in how she approached this situation, distracting herself from the ministry, offering up herself to public scrutiny, trying to make the whole thing work by giving the majority of members unaffiliated with the British government having no representatives or the ministry bureaucracy itself.
The ministry representatives administered the Veritas serum, then stood back as Madam Marchbanks was questioned publicly to kick off the Truth Commission.
Identify yourself, madam. The representative from Spain kicked off the questioning.
Griselda Marchbanks.
Your age?
This got a couple chuckles from the audience. It wasn't exactly proper to ask a matron such questions, but it would prove that the Veritas serum was working. Yeah, you never
Also,
ask a lady
Diego
her
was-
age.
Also, Diego might have been looking to use a pickup line. 107 years old. That's surprising. You don't look over 90.
Have you ever I can't do a Spanish accent, so I'm just
I
going to
can
do...
barely.
Yeah.
Then again, most of my European accents, except for English, turn Slavic.
You know what? I'm going to try it because why not? Have you ever supported the one called Voldemort? No, that didn't work. Damn it.
I mean, it wasn't bad.
It
It wasn't
didn't feel
great,
like...
but it wasn't bad.
I didn't feel like it was right, though, but thank you.
I mean, if you work on it more.
Yeah, I'm going to... That's one of the ones that I...
No.
Did you ever support any Death Eater in any way?
I was asked to be Barty Crouch Jr.'s godmother, but I had to decline.
The crowd seemed amused by the admission.
Oh god, the accents.
I may as well, right?
Yes, but it's just the fact of how many accents are piling on.
I mean, it makes it more interesting.
Why did you decline? The Spanish representative had a good sense of the questions people wanted answered.
Because I couldn't stand about his wife.
That had the audience laughing. Griselda was blushing as the woman she just badmouthed was still alive and quite ill.
When did you become aware of the irregularities with how the authors were prosecuting the war?
When I read the accounts in the Irish newspapers, and that interesting series the Americans did, the Daily Prophet took quite a while to start investigating.
Yes, the Spanish papers had the stories a few days before you did here. Do you represent the interests of any individual or group of individuals who work with the Ministry of Magic?
Definitely not. I have served for 38 years on the Whizzing Gamut since my husband died. I've always served without listening to the lobbyists, the Malfoys, and the sycophants the minister has around him. I'll do the same thing here.
Half the audience was laughing again. The minister and his supporters looked across between anger and embarrassment.
Semicolon.
Why did you join the Truth Commission?
I would like to know what happened in the war. I've heard so many horrifying stories from both sides. I know I'm not the only one who wants to know. I've got the time and sheer stubbornness to see it through.
Even Harry Potter had to smile at that. She did seem thoroughly stubborn in the best sense of the word.
Do you have any ulterior motives? No, that was wrong.
Okay.
I mean, if you ended it with if you put how do you say, then it'd be more French. Do you have any, how do you say, ulterior motives?
That was slightly Slavic.
That was more Slavic. Again, apparently the only European accent I can do is Eastern or English.
To make my country great again, we need to get over and through this, and not keep the anger. I don't know if the Commission will do much, but it's the best idea I've heard in some time to help set things right.
Harry listened to the rest of the questions. He stayed to hear Madam Marchbanks come out of the Veritas room and scowl at her Inquisitor. When she began questioning the others, they sounded neutral and interested in the truth of what occurred during the war.
This could really work, Harry thought.
He hadn't felt hopeful in quite some time, but he did that morning. He was surrounded by government functionaries, public gadflies, drunkards who had nothing better to do than gather and listen, and assorted others. He was particularly fond of the others. But he still felt like the world was about to change for the better, mostly because he was quite misguided. Guided there, partner.
Optimism for Harry was a rare emotion. In this particular case, it was a bit misplaced as well. The law of balance hadn't yet reared its ugly head, but it would. Harry's efforts had been too easy thus far, so fate decided upon some unforeseen changes.
I'm not too keen on the direction Harry's going with this sort of thing. It seems kind of totalitarian.
It seems real totalitarian. He's just gonna be.
I might be a simple man from the Old West where we actually don't have a government. And it's merely the local sheriffs keeping everything in line. Well, them and prostitutes, but that's another thing. But, I mean, after all, if the prostitutes hadn't come, we wouldn't have much of an infrastructure now, would we? But I must say that even with that slight bias in mind, this doesn't seem like the best course of action.
Well, that
Sure,
Potter
we may
boy.
hang up our guns at the door when we come into town, but that doesn't mean that everything needs to be monitored.
Well, yeah, that Potter boy seems a bit misguided anyway. And really, really angsty. I don't know what his deal is.
As do the Irish in this story, now that I think about it.
Everyone, technically.
Just about everyone. Except for possibly Dumbledore. God bless that man.
God bless Dumbledore.
And his boyfriend.
We'll see y'all next time.
Apparently, progressive cowboys are just a thing now.